Hello and welcome to another light reading podcast, the Notebook Dump Edition. Congratulations, you have made it through yet another week. I'm Phil Harvey. I'm an editor here at Light Reading, and let's say hello to the crew joining me today. First of all, in New York City, we have Nicole Ferraro. Hello, Nicole.
Hello.
How are things? Your ID says George Santos. Is that?
Yes, we can all be George Santos because George Santos can be whoever he wants. So I'm using him as inspiration to be the George Santos of my apartment today.
That's fantastic. Be the George Santos of your apartment.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Nicole, thanks so much. We'll also say hello to Kelsey Zeiser, who is in one of the Carolinas. I can never figure out which one.
The northern one, the better one. North Carolina. Come on.
How are things in North Carolina? Are you being the George Santos of your apartment?
No, I'm in a house.
Oh, wow.
It's not a very big one. It's fine.
How the other half lives. Sorry.
It's good here. Very windy. So I might blow around.
Okay. Well, we'll be all right. No, just hold on to the desk until we get through this podcast. Let's also say hi to Jeff Baumgartner, who is in the Denver metro, and he is digging his way out of snow, so I hear.
Yeah. Like Mike and I both had to take 2 swipes at it yesterday just to stay ahead and not, pull our backs out of whack. So I survived that. Yeah.
It's weather-related cardio. I'm sure we're all going to be there at some time or another.
Do you guys ever have like wars with your neighbors where you blow all the snow into their driveway and then they blow it back into yours and then you end up on Dateline or something?
Fair question.
All the time. No, I haven't yet. Not in this neighborhood. They're actually pretty nice. The guy next door actually offers to bring his snowblower over when it gets really heavy. When I'm just out there looking pathetic, he'll come over sometimes. So I'm very nice to him.
Yeah.
Mike, on the other hand, I don't know. Snow battles every day. I don't know.
Yeah, let's also say hi to Mike Dano, who is also in the Denver metro area, also completely covered in snow. I mean, not at the moment, but out in your yard, I suppose. And do you ever offer to lend your neighbors your snowblower or?
All the metals that are behind me, you can see in the picture right here. All of these are for shoveling snow.
Oh, okay.
I'm not running.
That's great.
I shovel snow. That's my thing.
I thought for sure you were going to have a Tauntaun joke, but instead you went with the metal.
No, that is Mike being the George Santos of his home.
That is true.
Right.
Yeah.
Good job, Mike.
Good job.
Yeah, sorry. You're right though, Phil. I should have had a Tauntaun. I mean, they do smell better on the outside.
I'll take your word for it. All right. Well, to start, we'll go around the horn and talk about what stories we found intriguing this week, and then share any things that maybe didn't make it into the stories, or questions we have about what was written and said. I guess we should let's stay in the Denver metro first of all. Let's go to Mike and sort of pick up where. What non-snow related stuff did you were you thinking about and worrying about this week?
So, all right, I have a good one for this week because I did a couple stories on decentralized wireless, which it's got to be my favorite topic right now in wireless.
It's got the best acronym.
Oh, it's called DeWi. Short for decentralized wireless, and it's truly fascinating. No one is really paying attention to it. No one thinks it's going to be a big deal. Everyone thinks it's going to fall apart this year and just collapse. But I mean, you just, in terms of interesting topics and interesting stories and interesting people to write about, you cannot get better than DeWi stuff going on. It's just really interesting.
And why do you say that? Sorry.
Well,
so stupid. Sorry.
Well done, Phil. Well done.
Sound effect.
I got my phone.
Oh, we have the sound effect still. Oh,
thank you, Kelsey. She's suddenly very awake, very alive.
Sorry, continue.
So the reason, yes, I can't wait for the next one. So the reason DeWi is so good, it's just such an interesting topic. So the way that it works is, so Phil, you buy your own little tiny cell tower for like $5,000 or $10,000. You operate it at your house, and then you earn cryptocurrency for doing that. That's the whole setup. And then I, who have a phone that can access that cell tower, when I go to your house and hang out and eat ice cream at 2 a.m., I use your cell tower, and then you make money from my traffic onto your cell tower, but only in the form of cryptocurrency.
But I don't charge you directly. I just make the money from somebody,
from
Bored Ape.
Cryptocurrency. Yeah, it's there's a little bit of hand waving magic going on in this whole scenario, and you can tell that scale is a big problem.
I think we have an illustration. Kelsey, how would that look? Okay, now I understand. Yeah, okay, very good.
That's
what we do here at Light Reading. We explain things.
Yeah. And so anyway, there's lots going on in DeWi. There's a company this week. I wrote about a company called Pollen Mobile that's got a couple of trial programs going on. We had a report on the space come out that said there's more than 8,000 cell sites around the country that operate under this model, representing a total investment of $20 million in network infrastructure. So it's not nothing.
Right.
It's not to scale yet, but it's not nothing. And the bottom line here is that it is interesting. It is just an interesting topic and is worth following.
It's certainly an attractive thought too, for, like you said, that this seems to be, if you're in an entrepreneurial mindset, this seems to be the golden age of being able to gain entry to becoming a telecom service provider at the lowest price ever, with an immediate return.
Yeah. You really you upend this model of companies doing stuff. It could be regular users doing stuff.
Well, hey, Mike, question for you. Like, is there any anecdotal evidence yet of anybody who's made any real money off of this yet?
So the real interesting part is that I think as everybody's watched, just cryptocurrency in general has just plummeted. It's just totally crashed. That market has totally crashed. And as a result, no one is buying the DeWi radios anymore. It's a DeWi-zaster. It's a disaster. I can't do it. Sorry. Thank you, though. I appreciate that. Anyway, but the fall in cryptocurrency prices overall, it's just totally cooling off this whole thing. And so there's not as many radios that are being installed right now. So we'll see.
I'm a little offended that you haven't reached out to me about this, Mike, because George Santos, as you probably know, invented DeWi. So it's a little weird that you wouldn't come directly to the source, but whatever.
Yeah.
He's intimidated.
Entirely fair. It's one of George Santos's early.
That reminds me of one of my first home runs on the Yankees. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye out on DeWi. Obviously, what's weird is the cryptocurrency is crashing, so that's the reward mechanism. But the actual traffic and sort of interest in the platforms is probably higher than ever because more people know about it. And everybody needs bandwidth. So I think, an interesting tension point. And we'll keep everybody search Light Reading for DeWi and read what's there, and then we'll keep supplying more for you to read. Mr. Santos, since we started since
present,
we last left
McCarthy.
You. What have you been up to this week, or what?
Oh God, I've been all over the world. I went to Mars.
What can we prove that you've been up to this week?
Okay, fair enough. Well, as my alter ego, Nicole Ferraro, here in New York City, I have a story this week about the Affordable Connectivity Program. Hold on. Navient is calling for my student loan payment. Let me just end that. Okay, done.
Thanks, Joe Biden.
Yeah, well, thanks, Supreme Court and everybody who was holding up. Anyway, whatever. Back to this, the Affordable Connectivity Program. So I had a story this week about some advocates raising the alarm about the impending end of the Affordable Connectivity Program and what that's going to mean for the country's plan to close the digital divide. So just for some basic context, as a reminder, the Affordable Connectivity Program, the ACP, is the $14.25 billion broadband subsidy program funded through the infrastructure law passed in 2021. It was at the time described as the permanent version of the emergency broadband benefit, which was the subsidy passed in the early days of COVID. But permanent is a funny word for a program that's about to run out of funding in the next couple of years at most. So the National Urban League basically wrote a letter to Senator John Thune in response to his inquiry that he put out in December to the industry about the Biden administration's broadband programs and, where they should be maybe passing legislation to roll back some of the rules that the NTIA set. The National Urban League's point of view was none of those things are the issue. The biggest threat to closing the digital divide is uncertainty about the ACP. And there are all sorts of reasons for that. You can read my story about it for a deeper dive into what those reasons are. But this is a real concern because the Congress, as it is right now, is not going to pass funding for the Affordable Connectivity Program. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll surprise me. Maybe I will, as George Santos, decide to fund the Affordable Connectivity Program. I'll tell you right now, I don't think I'm going to do it. I really don't think I am. So with the likelihood of Congress funding the program out the window, they're going to have to look at potential other avenues for this program because right now it's supporting over 15.7 million households. And that also means, millions of subscribers on various ISP who are ISP customers. ISPs are getting their money from the government for those customers. So nobody wants this program to go away. So I'm going to be watching this for the next while to see, A, if Congress even considers refunding this program, B, if there are other avenues within the federal government to refund it, or C, if private ISPs take it upon themselves to figure out how to improve their own affordability benefits to maybe make up for this program. But the uncertainty around it could impact who applies for BEAD funds, how much money they request, whether or not they can stay in business if they get those grants to build out and then the ACP runs out of funds, particularly in the rural US. So it's a big concern and something I'm going to keep an eye on.
Yeah, because if you're a small ISP, why would you take on the risk of building out more when all of a sudden this vital, funding source has been cut off? That directly impacts, the constituents you're trying to serve in your metro. And then, presumably if you're a rural carrier, you don't have the benefit of large numbers. So, every single customer matters, and knowing that those dollars are going to come in and knowing that income is going to be something you can count on is that's the bedrock of your build out plan.
100%. And for the record, the BEAD recipients are required to participate in the Affordable Connectivity Program. So that's a little hiccup attached to that as well.
Yeah, which makes sense.
And all of this is happening in the context of the Universal Service Fund being in the hands of the Fifth Circuit Court. We should be getting a decision on whether or not that program is even constitutional, I think, soon. So that's interesting. Yeah. Mike?
Yeah. Nicole, I have an important question for you along these lines. Nicole Ferraro, would you describe George Santos as the original Kaiser Sose? Or would you give it a different...
I think he would.
Yeah.
I think I would go with that, Mike. I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah, he would say that works for me. Anything that came to mind in the moment. Which is a lot like me, except I'm not in charge of anything. So that's
nothing at all.
Right. Nothing at all. Speaking of people in charge of stuff, Kelsey, you're in charge of the Carolinas and
all
other
of
things.
them.
What have you been up to?
Well, I've been really busy being in charge of the Carolinas, especially South Carolina. They're causing ruckus.
Ruffians. Yeah.
Ruffians.
A lot of nonsense happening out there. A lot of ne'er-do-wells.
Yes.
A lot of scallywags.
Stay in Charleston. Anyway, so this week Infinera had a couple updates. They upgraded a submarine cable system that connects the US and Japan, and doubled the capacity with 800 gig. And this specific submarine cable was ready for service in April of 2010 and initially cost $300 million. So some of the service providers that are part of the consortium for this specific cable are Bharti Airtel. There's also Google, KDDI, Telstra, and Singtel are some of those. So it's a pretty interesting update there.
Yeah, 800 gig is definitely becoming, I mean, all of the international submarine cables are going to upgrade transmission to, the ones that can handle the capacity are going to be on that upgrade path at some point in the future. But it's interesting that they're, I think this is maybe the second or third one. There haven't been that many that have upgraded all the way yet. So this is pretty big news in the optical world. So it's out in the real world. It's actually working, carrying traffic and so on.
Yeah, and the back end
older fiber, right?
Sorry.
I said, and it was an older fiber. It wasn't something that was just recently laid. So it was something that's been in service for quite a while, as you pointed out. So
yeah, I think their lifespan is usually like 25 years. So that is kind of interesting that they would invest that when it's, I guess, halfway to being dead.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the technology on both ends of the 800 gig and maybe beyond, is that they can find ways to filter out those I don't know, impurities, oddities in the fiber itself, and continue to transmit and continue to up the transmission capability. So yeah, it's quite a high wire act they're walking there, but but obviously we're good at 800 gig. Now we'll see how far they can go up from there.
Yeah. The last upgrade that I could find to this specific cable system was, so Telstra owns 2 dedicated fiber pairs that they call the EAC Pacific, and they updated it to 100 gig DWDM technology in 2013. So yeah, I mean, there's still some periodic investments in this particular cable, which I think is around like 9,000 kilometers long.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's a big one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for that. Yeah. It's also, we'll have more, I guess, on the direction of 800 gig and the acceptance in the marketplace, because that's this is supposed to be one of the years where that really gets going, because it's a huge sort of step up in the optical capacity category. I'll be going to OFC in San Diego in a month or so, and we'll have more from there. And also, I guess it was maybe middle of last year, Sterling Perrin and Heavy Reading did some surveys on, did an operator survey about who's using 800 gig and when, and sort of what the timelines are and stuff like that. So there's some of that information from Heavy Reading you can find as well. Anything else, or shall we go to Jeff?
The only other thing from Infinera specifically this week was they also updated Louisiana State University's network. So they have 200, 400, and 600 gig capabilities now, with the option to go to 800 in the future. And they also updated a 220-mile interstate route, and deployed 400 gig optical channels there. So it's kind of interesting.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Lots of bandwidth happening at LSU.
Yeah.
Good times. Jeff, let's see. We talked about your snow shoveling. Anything else you were working on this week?
No, that was it.
That's great. All right, moving on.
Yeah. I think, really the big thing that's coming is kind of more on the horizon, because earnings season is getting underway, and Netflix will be announcing their Q4 results later after this call. So we'll, the thing that we'll be looking at is obviously subscriber growth and how that's doing, but also how the new ad-based tier is made, if it's making any sort of an impact in the early going, because they only launched it in November. So they'll only have like a partial quarter of results there. So it's probably too early to say one way or the other if it's a winning or benign sort of tactic, and if they can make up any of the revenues with the ad tiers that they with the ad plan that they're not getting with the ad free plans. I haven't made any change on my end. Anybody here with Netflix, shift over to the ad supported plan?
No way.
No.
No,
Not happening.
not yet. I'm on. I think I did with Hulu. I kind of go back and forth. Like sometimes I'll go to the ad plan, and then I'll sit through a couple of episodes of something and get sick of the ads and pony up.
Like, okay,
Fine, take my money.
here's $5 extra. Yeah.
I can't.
I'm not going
tolerate so
to
much.
shift either. Yeah. So yeah, I think the big question, maybe they'll provide some color as to whether the people coming onto the ad plan are formerly on the ad free plan, or are they brand new customers that we're on the fence and say, okay, well, this is something I can afford. Then I think the next thing we'll be keeping an eye on are the Q4 results, mostly starting next week. But ahead of that, the analysts over at ISI Evercore put out a forecast. And one of the top line things that was kind of interesting was that fixed wireless access will continue to take share, but the rate of growth is starting to show signs of slowing down, which I think is pretty much expected, to happen this year. But maybe we're already going to see some of that occur with the results cut from fourth quarter. But the ramp's going to maybe start to become more linear is the prediction. And though fixed wireless access represents a good portion of overall subscriber growth with decent gains from we're also expect to see some gains from the fiber part of the market. And on the cable side, Charter should have a small gain, but it looks like Comcast might swing to another loss with respect to broadband. And then on pay TV, which is kind of being decimated, traditional pay TV is projected to lose another 1.8 million subscribers, and offset by about 600,000 from the virtual MVPDs like YouTube TV. So still growth in that segment, but it's not coming anywhere close to offsetting the traditional pay TV sector that's kind of gone off the cliff at this point.
How big is the pay TV, the traditional pay TV sector that the cable companies and the satellite companies are still holding on to?
Oh boy, I'd have to look. It's like in the 60 millions.
Okay,
I
so
think. Yeah,
I'd
have to look up that number. But but the rate of decline is continues to get down. Yeah, I think in the third quarter it reached kind of a rock bottom, or a bottom, and we'll see if Q4 is just a new bottom. We're just trying to figure out where the floor is.
Well,
for a lot of this.
I think that'll help too with the stability of companies like DirecTV and in terms of how investors evaluate them. Because if you don't really know when the bleeding is going to stop, you don't really know what kind of long-term business you're looking at, and they haven't. Since they've just been spun out of AT&T, they haven't really diversified much. They haven't really had time. They've just operationally been kind of challenged.
And I think if you talk to Charlie Ergen, he thinks it's inevitable that DirecTV and Dish will eventually merge. We'll see. He's been saying that for a long time.
He's just sweating them for a good price, probably, right?
Well, meanwhile, and the other problem is if you call it a problem, at least from the pay TV standpoint, all the direct to consumer, a lot of the good stuff is going into those. So people are kind of questioning, why am I paying, this? They're already questioning whether they're paying too much, but it's becoming even more so as more premium content goes to these other
Yeah.
services, and it kind of dilutes the value of the pay TV subscription.
The parent, well, back to the Netflix conversation quickly. The Paramount Plus. What's the other one? So that one's Paramount Plus is CBS. What's the other one that's NBC related? Peacock, I think.
Peacock.
That one, they both had that sort of inexpensive tier with commercials. That kind of mimics broadcast television a little bit. And I wonder, were those efforts when they introduced their pricing? I think it was with the eye toward pulling in a lot of new subscribers to kind of check it out the first time. So I wonder if Netflix is on the same trajectory, or if they have a lot of folks that are just would have quit the service otherwise, but now they'll downgrade and stay a customer.
Right. Yeah, I think Peacock, particularly to kind of prime the pump in a way, they did offer the ad-supported tier as part of a package to Comcast customers, and some other distributors did the same thing. But I think at some point they're going to stop doing that. So we'll have to see how that affects their subscriber base. And in the case of Peacock, they also have like a completely free ad-supported version, but it's you get access to a smaller library, and I think you don't get all of certain shows like The Office, one of the more popular catalog shows. So
meanwhile, Paramount Plus has a tie-up with T-Mobile where they do they offer the service. I think the lower tier service, the one that would normally be $4.99 a month, they offer that for a full year for free for T-Mobile customers. And then after that, you just stay connected to it. And the way that theirs is set up, you would continue to pay the $4.99 a month, but it just gets processed on your T-Mobile bill. So they're sort of, not just doing the initial thing, but they're also bundling in the payment. So maybe the consumer doesn't feel the urge to turn it off at that point, because they just sort of get used to the bill, and then they get used to the bill the way it is, and then it goes up $5 a year or $5 a month, and then they just arguably leave it alone and keeps.
Yeah, that's kind of woven in there. It's harder to
a little harder.
Maybe you don't think about it as much.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if Netflix and other streaming companies will pursue avenues like that, because because I had the exact same thought, which was that once you sort of tie that bill into another bill, that becomes a little bit easier to just leave alone than it is to just pull everything apart and try to figure out how to cancel one but not cancel the other, and you don't want to lose your service with T-Mobile and blah blah blah. So
I think it kind of speaks to the bigger drive for bundling. The power of the bundle is also to make it harder to unbundle.
Kind of a fragmented market for sure. So it'll be interesting to hear what Netflix has to say, and of course we'll watch for your coverage on that. Let's see, anything else that I'm missing? We're coming up on the 28, 29, maybe 30-minute mark. It's moved along briskly. A lot of smiles and blank stares. Okay, so I'm gonna say nothing's. I'm going to say we haven't missed anything. Do please check out Ian Morris's article on telco automation, because that's a pretty interesting one about how the telecom companies haven't automated as quickly and as thoroughly as maybe they had hoped at one time. Another thing coming this week, we kind of dive into the idea that, a little bit of analysis behind Microsoft's recent layoffs. They cut 10,000 employees. And then at the same time, their CEO was touting the future of AI and the fact that automation is such a great thing and stuff like that. And it's like they almost happened simultaneously. So I thought that was terrible timing on his part, but also maybe a nod toward what to expect in the future, and maybe a cautionary tale to all of these companies that think the cloud companies have it figured out. And they're pitching you these ideas that, if you just move all your business systems to the cloud, all this intelligence will help you with planning and forecasting and stuff like that. Well, those companies are laying off a bunch of people because they're bad at planning and forecasting and stuff like that. random baseball sound effect. I guess that means it's time to wrap up. Thank you all very much for your hard work and assistance on this here podcast. On behalf of Mike Dano, Jeff Baumgartner, Kelsey Zeiser, George Santos, aka Nicole Ferraro, thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and have a great weekend.